I invite Mr. Winny Patro to take session on dealing with bad credit and late and delayed payments.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for giving me opportunity to be here, first of all. And I think it's a good beginning. I think it's probably one of those forums that most needed for places like Hyderabad or otherwise in the country. So first of all, congratulations for beginning this and all the very best for making this happen today and then for future endeavors around this forum. I've been having experience in a multifaceted industry, so almost I've been probably worked across more than about 7-8 industries, both at national level and international level, different economies and different geographies. One of the things that we've been contemplating in the recent past is that how do we solve a problem of these payments, late payments, defaults, where the entire vicious cycle, troubling the economy, not just in India, but globally, right? A parent in a small school doesn't pay the school fee in right time because the parent doesn't get the salary in right time. He doesn't get the salary in right time because the organization he is working for, they don't get the payments on time. And it's this whole cycle, primarily a financial discipline cycle. The whole problem, so where is this whole problem? The solution that we have come up with is not primarily new in itself as a concept, but for the fact that such concepts have been implemented in some sectors and have been very, very successful. We all know CIBIL, Equifax, all these credit rating agencies, how they made people slightly follow the timely payments, especially on the repayment of loans or their credit card payments, right? CIBIL has primarily made people change their behaviors to an extent. So behavioral change is primarily what we see is required for solving any vicious larger problems, right? So the problem that we have been looking at is how do we bring that financial discipline, and especially majority of the problem lies in the SMEs and globally, right? That's where I'm going to spend about maybe 5-10 minutes, and I'm going to talk about what we're doing and how the early results are looking like, how promising it has been for us in the market. If you look at the number of cases of late and defaults in India, we call it LADPers, late default payers, especially in the non-banking sector, which means I'm not talking about anything transaction that happen with bank. No loan payments. I'm not talking about loan payments. I'm not talking about credit card payments, but rest of all the things. If you see, there's about educational institutions, there are about close to 100 million cases every year where either there are defaults or late payments happening. And if you look at the last bar, if you see other micro enterprises, which is 500 million. In FMCG itself, leave alone the Kirana store giving retails, forget about that, but look at everything that happens before that. A retailer takes product from wholesaler on credit, wholesaler takes products from the distributor on credit, and so on and so forth, the chain itself. And there's a whole parallel banking system, and there is a whole parallel banking system in the country, which primarily doesn't fall into the regulation of RBI, small time credit cooperative societies, which are at village level. On an average in India, we have about 3 such societies per village. For a country like India, we're talking about 6 lakh odd villages in India, that it boils down to about 20 million such societies. They don't fall under, right? They all governed by the local governments. Then you have B2B SME, industrial goods, or otherwise those that actually do not directly go to homes, but then that stay in the B2B SME segment itself. More than 200 million such cases in India. So these are so many cases in India. If you convert all of these cases, then I'm talking about number of instances late payments happen in India. Primarily, there is a home rental also we are looking at, where there's a lot of late payments happen. If you look at that value, right? Primarily at an SME level in both B2C and B2B in India right now, there's about 28,000 billion rupees transactions happen, of which B2B SME alone, business to business, small medium enterprises alone is about 15,000 billion rupees transactions happen. The beauty is of which about close to 42% of it is at risk of late and default, 43-44%. When I say why they're at risk of 43-44% at risk of late and default, that's the percentage of the transactions which are going on credit. That's the percentage of transactions which are going on credit, which is primarily 6,000 billion rupees is at risk every year in India. And you can imagine and do your math. How much is that percentage of the GDP which is actually at risk? What's interesting is it in India? No, it's across the globe. It's across the globe. If you see those numbers, proportion of total B2B sales that are made on credit, in India, it is about 42%. If you look at Japan, it is about 50%. Every country does sales on credit, especially in B2B, just not India. But yes, in terms of problems that we are facing, these are all happen on credit. But primarily, if you look at how much is the percentage of defaults and late payments, and that varies from country to country. The past due, which means you give a due date, and then people don't pay on before the due date. The number of payments that are still due after the due date, may I be excused for that? Right. So if you look at the B2B receivables on credit, which they don't pay in time, which basically they don't pay in time, it still stays as a receivables after the due date is over. In domestic, it is about 58%. A lot of B2B SMEs in India do a lot of business with foreign companies. The 156% is about doing business with foreign companies. But let's even focus about domestic. 58% of the entire credit sales people do. 58% of the entire credit sales that business people do are not being paid before due date. So I said how much is the 6,000 billion rupees, of which if I round figure that into 60%, out of 6,000 billion rupees, 60% of it, which is 3,600 billion rupees is still pending after a due date. That's the scenario that we are living in. That's a hard fact. Now calculate on that the interest lost, cash flow issues, opportunity cost. The Warner who is sitting and spending 30% of his time in a day to sort of call up, find out, and all of that. I'm not talking about the opportunity cost. If I have to take opportunity cost, it's about 10% of it. Now, my 3,600 billion rupees will probably become a 4,000, including the opportunity cost. What's interesting is, of those 57% of whatever, 2.4% is uncollectible. When I say 2.4% is uncollectible, well, 2.4% is taken for granted. I'm not going to get money. Written off, leave it, I am tied off. So that's a pretty much the case. So the loss is of course the 2.4 completely, but there is so much loss that happens because they don't get money in time. 60% of the payments don't come in time, so they take money on interest. They are bleeding. They don't pay salaries in time. Because they don't pay salaries in time, that guy, the story that I narrated, the father who has to pay the school fee, he takes money on loan, he pays interest, and then the school kid probably, has to bear all the sort of a humiliation if a school treats them, all right, so you are not paid, and, started announcing names in front of them. Look at what's happening as a behavioral of the country because of one financial discipline. It's causing much more than that. There is a direct and an indirect impact for any country, both in economic and non-economic factors also, right? So that's a large problem. So we thought, how do we do this? What has happened earlier that made people financially do something, especially in a country like India, unless we are getting policed by someone, we don't follow rules, right? Or sort of, okay, we have the whole of issue, if there is a public knowledge, if I'm doing, I probably won't do. That's what actually Sybil did, right? Sybil did, if I don't pay on time, my record is somewhere, I'm going to be loser. So that's when we thought, okay, how do we solve this problem? That's when we started off called Recordent. How do you report your late and default payments on a platform, right? You have a late and default payments on a platform. People are not stopped answering your calls. People, who are dues, they are not responding. They don't have that. There could be issue, could be genuine or so on and so forth. But people are taking things for granted. Okay, ye to chalta hai. India mein to chalta hai. So-called 21 days, as is probably sometimes in some cases in some parts of India has become a norm of 240 days. I was talking to Bizongo founder in the morning, who was saying Bangalore is sort of looking at on a B2B level, 240 days they've taken for granted, which means it's crazy. So this is where we started off a platform where any business can report any late or a default payment. What happens is that at this point of time, the record stays there. Think of a Sybil, but this is complete for a non-regulated and non-banking transactions. All SMEs are non-regulated, many of them. Right? Sybil is a regulated organization for regulated entities. This is an open intermediary platform. Any businesses can start reporting their late payments. And the fact that the person who is actually defaulted who's basically delayed the payment, he knows, oh, my record is sort of put up by someone at some place. This may possibly create some problem in the future. So it's been about 3-4 months and the results have been really exciting, where we have seen people coming back and paying some 100 rupees dues also, as less as that and as high as turning into lakhs. There is payments that have been pending for more than 1 year. The moment that they understood, okay, someone sort of recorded my transaction on the platform and they came back and started clearing the dues. What we intend to also look at this platform, and that is one part of it, reporting in late payments, but what we intend to do it in the future, in the long run, is that SMEs are going to get a lot of help in terms of looking at the data available on the platform and understand whether should I do business with that particular business SME or not. If I'm an SME, if I want to sell a product to another SME, I want to understand whether they're good paymasters or do they have a good payment history. If they're not having a payment history, I rather don't want to waste my time in going and promoting my product, right? You can customize your terms. Not only that, if I understand they're a good paymasters, I can customize my terms of payments with them. So this is a kind of a model that we've helped built up with, and where right now schools are reporting students, publishers are reporting schools because schools are not paying publishers in time. It is becoming a vicious cycle. We keep getting calls from different parts of the country. Some furniture rentals calls up saying that a lot of people have not paid me, and then there is electrical shop comes and there are contractors have not paid me. So the network effect is taking up shape, and we see possibly this could be a platform where we're going to be an intermediary for SMEs and to help prevent happening such cases. At the same time, probably to better way to deal before it becomes a sort of an NPA, right? That's what I thought I should share with all of you, what we're doing and how we see this problem and how we can probably be part of solving this problem. Thank you so much. If you have any question, and thanks for the attention. Data is not available public. For example, let's say a school, let's say you're an SME, I'm an SME. If you reported me as a late payer, right, the data stays there. But this data cannot be seen by anyone unless asked for. Which means that, let's say tomorrow, some ex-gentleman wants to see that data. He has to have the consent, which means I have to give him a OTP. Though you reported the data on me, but I'm the owner of the data. And you are a partial owner of the data, right? You can see because you reported me. Nobody else can see. If anybody else wants to see, they have to ask me because the OTP is received at my end. And you reported the phone number of me. I have not put my phone number. You have reported the phone number of my, or a GST of my organization. So which basically falls into the legal aspects of the Data Protection Act of the country, where you need to have a consent, right? It's same thing, right? For example, unless I go to a bank asks for information to take my CIBIL report. They have to take my consent to take the CIBIL report. I would give the report because primarily I want to avail the loan, right? Similarly here, if I want to avail the service, I would rather allow you to sort of look at my data. That's a positive or negative. If it's primarily just a inferential report, you don't need to. Fall into segmentation of associations, then usage of existing Zohos or SAPs for that matter, right? So how do we integrate with all of it? That's one part of it. Second part of it is obviously fleet on ground. So that's the way forward we're looking at. We have blessings from Government of India to see they're also helping us to sort of how we can reach out to larger audience in the country, because we're solving a noble problem. In cases where we see there is like I said, there's a possibility of taking things for advantage. So that is where we ask for a proof of due. Otherwise, the 7 days gets extended sometimes till it gets actually solved. Thank you. Thank you so much.